Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all our witnesses for being here for today's important hearing. Education, the linchpin of a stable and flourishing life. I'm sure each of us here can attest to the power of education in our own lives and have seen numerous examples in our districts of the difference solid education and professional training can make. But too many of our schools are now failing in their mission to deliver a quality education. In their place, we've seen countless new options arise and grow in popularity, from charter schools to private education to education savings accounts that help with homeschooling expenses. Many of these options cost money, and as we all know, money's now tight, particularly thanks to Bidenomics. You know, as been mentioned many times before, since President Biden took office, prices have increased 17.7% and real wages have declined 3.9%. On top of the economic challenges, there's been a concerted effort by many Democrats to limit K-12 education opportunities. In recent years, Republican efforts to expand coverage for additional K-12 expenses in 529 accounts have been thwarted first by Senate Democrats and later by Speaker Pelosi, despite unanimous bipartisan support from this committee. Expanding coverage of 529 accounts is not the only way we can make education more accessible and affordable to students and families. There are numerous education tax incentives and tax credits being piloted throughout the country, the most effective of which can be adopted by various states. In Kansas, for example, we have tax credit for low-income student scholarship program that incentivizes charitable support for scholarship granting organizations, or SGOs, that help power private schools. By utilizing this tax credit, Kansas enjoy a reduced income tax liability on their state income tax while helping connect low-income students to a quality education. The program powers schools like Urban Preparatory in Wichita, a transformative K-12 private school I visited that serves over 120 students. Last year, they were recognized as finalists for the Yaz Prize, which honors new and innovative approaches to education. 99% of urban prep students are on scholarship, funded largely by the tax credit scholarship program for low-income students. Urban Prep, like many other schools across the country, is giving low-income students new opportunities that without tax credits would be unattainable. Dr. DeAngelis, for many years, children in Kansas have benefited from the tax scholarship programs. However, there's now a growing sentiment that private schools should not be allowed to benefit from these scholarships. Can you explain how these scholarships were derived? Are they comprised entirely of public funds or private funds? And what's your thoughts on use of public funds only for public schools?
Well, what's interesting about this argument that public funds are for public schools, well, there's no such thing as public funds. They're called taxpayer dollars. But then a lot of the people who oppose public funds for private institutions when it comes to K-12 education, they support it for higher education with Pell Grants, for pre-K, like the Head Start program, with food stamps going to private institutions that are grocery stores, Medicaid dollars that can be used at private, even religious hospitals if you want. Section 8 housing vouchers are all good, fine and dandy when it comes to housing, but not K-12 education. It's totally strange. But look, these are private dollars with the tax credit scholarship program because they're donations. And if you look at the Supreme Court precedent on this with ACSTO versus Wynn in 2011, they ruled with common sense that private dollars remain private until they enter the tax collector's hands. So this isn't public money. That talking point is moot. It's totally garbage if you look at the logical inconsistency with so many people who repeat this, but then support public going to private, everything else. And the beneficiaries of this funding is not the institutions themselves, the private schools. It's the individual families who get a choice in the matter. And if you like your public school, you can continue to go there. But if not, families need the choice to be able to take that funding meant for their child to the education provider that works best for them. That could be a private school, could be a home-based education option, and so on. But that decision is up to the parents.
Well, that's great. I mean, we've continued to see that the shopping mall approach to education has only led to lower standards and rigor in curricula. Do you think that competition would help public schools move back towards higher standards? And how will they be able to accomplish these changes and rise to the competition if they have less funds due to the school choice policies?
Yeah, on a per student basis, the public schools actually end up with more funding per student because they lose some of the funding associated with the scholarship, of course, if a family chooses to leave. But if not, or even if they do, schools are funded only partially based on enrollment counts. And if the scholarship is less than the total amount spent in the public schools, they get to keep thousands of dollars for students who are no longer educating. Just imagine if you stopped shopping at Walmart and you went to what's the other grocery store you like? Sprouts or Publix, and Walmart got to keep all your half your grocery funding in perpetuity. That would be a great deal for Walmart. Wouldn't make a lot of sense. It's similarly a good deal for the public schools. They get to keep any money at all for students they're no longer educating. They benefit on a per-student basis, and competition is a rising tide that lifts all boats. We see this in every other industry. We see it in K-12 education as well. We have so much evidence. If those fear-mongering about school choice had any evidence, they'd present it. It doesn't exist. 26 of 29 studies are positive. School choice, better outcomes in the public schools.
Great, thank you, and I yield back.